Not bad at all. Not bad at all. It's a beautiful plane, and we're doing a lot of business. We have a lot of good things happening.
President?
Hi, thank you very much.
Okay, by the way, we're on a beautiful Air Force One. Not a bad plane.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. It's a beautiful plane. And
welcome back, everybody, to the morning show. It is Wednesday. I hope you're doing absolutely wonderful. Thank you to everyone joining us live, and then those watching the recording later on and listening on our podcast platform. So much to talk about. Donald Trump obviously traveling across the Middle East, and he was on Air Force One chatting with Hannity. Didn't go well. Let's go through that first, and then we're going to talk about Pete Buttigieg in Iowa and so much more. Starting with this, Trump talking again about his overweight buddy.
I told the story today. It was well received. A friend of mine who's slightly overweight, to put it mildly, went to a drugstore in London, and he was able to get one of the fat shots. I call it the fat shots, the jabs that you lose weight.
By the way, a lot of people laugh at that. Some people get offended by. I don't get offended by anything.
I'm just glad I didn't use his name.
I don't get offended by anything except for you ranting constantly about all the things that the left does that triggers you. Can we all admit? Sorry, this is a total different thought, but I do want to address the fat shot thing. Can we all admit? Because some certain people have had long debates about how, being offended is just your choice. Everyone has things that offend them. Everyone does. Some people, maybe we would call sensitive people, get offended by too much. Other people get offended by something you wouldn't, but you understand. Some people get offended by things that no one understands why they're offended about it. But it's just not true. I know there are things I could say about, I don't know, Hannity's family or his religious views or some things that are closer to his heart that he would get upset about. I know that because he's ranting about the things he's upset about constantly on TV. But also, I don't know who's getting offended by the fat shot. It's just funny that Trump says that. Fat shot, it's fine. Trump does a lot of terrible things. That's not one of them. But let's start the story over. My apologies.
I told the story today. It was well received. A friend of mine who's slightly overweight, to put it mildly, went to a drugstore in London, and he was able to get one of the fat shots. I call it the fat shots, the jabs that you lose weight.
By the way, a lot of people laugh at that. Some people get offended by. I don't get offended by anything.
I'm just glad I didn't use his name. He's actually a very rich guy. He's a very successful guy.
He's glad you didn't use his name.
No, he's very happy.
Oh.
He knows exactly who I was talking about. He called. He said, that was interesting. He said he was very concerned that I might use his name. It might slip. No, he doesn't have to worry. But he went to London, and he bought this...
Ozempic, Wegovy, one of those?
I guess, yeah. I'm not sure which one. But he bought one.
I don't know if it's Ozempic. I think it's FS. Fat shot. I think is the one that he got. I think that might be. Now, this is where the story originally showed up, and it's his, as we talked about yesterday or the day before that, who knows, the prescription drug promises that I'm skeptical he's going to be able to follow through on, but if he were able to, then we would, despite everything else with him, give him credit. But this is when my extremely overweight friend story originally reared its ugly head.
I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up, and he said, President, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy.
He has the same compliments with everybody. President Xi, so rough, so smart. He really roughs me up. I like it. It's nice. But he's so rough with me, but at the same time, so delicate. Have you ever experienced that? So much pain and so much pleasure at the same time. That's what President Xi does to me. So true.
President, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy. Very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would know this, but because he's got comments. President, could I ask you a question? What? I'm in London, and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said, I just paid $88. And in New York, I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, that's been a problem. We've been screaming about that problem for a very long time. And last time you implemented a similar policy to what you're doing now, it didn't work. But then he went on to, at a different event, say, we've lowered prescription drug prices by 80%. Not we are working to, we have lowered. He took the victory lap for something that right now is just a piece of paper. It's just something jotted down on a piece of paper, a goal, a vision board. Again, thank you all so much for joining if you're watching live or listening back later. If you are watching live and become a member while we're going, I will shout you out, as well as super chats, of course, like Conor McGregor's broken leg, saying, always nice starting the day with relevant topics, but with your digestible tone. Have a great day, Luke and team. Sorry, my name is what it is, lol. It's all right. We love you, Conor McGregor's broken leg. Strangely, I had a dream last night where I broke my leg. That's kind of a crazy just thing to suggest, but it was very gruesome. So tough. So bad. So broken. But if you click the join button below, become a member, get the bonus show, support the work that we do, I'll shout you out, and I appreciate you greatly. All right, he, again, sort of like whenever he referred to, what was it, Turkey? Or was it Hungary? I think it may have been Hungary, and he went, Hungary, great guy. He did that again, but now with Qatar.
Boeing, and I don't want to hurt Boeing, but they are very late with the plane, and Qatar heard about it, and he's a great leader, and we were talking, and he said, if I can help you.
Who said this? Qatar said this? Qatar. Hello? Hey, it's Qatar. Oh, you're taking the fast shot? Oh my God, it's not working, Qatar. Sorry. I'm sorry. That was mean. No, I won't tell anyone. No. Well, you saw me talking about, no, well, I won't tell them your name. I won't tell them your name. It was $88. Qatar, it's not working. You're overweight, extremely. All right. I talk to you later, Qatar. Was that his fat friend?
Boeing, and I don't want to hurt Boeing, but they are very late with the plane, and Qatar heard about it, and he's a great leader, and we were talking, and he said, if I can help you, let me do that. And they had a plane, not a new plane at all, but they had a plane, and you know, these planes, the plane that you're on right now is almost 40 years old. Boeing.
So this is him justifying, of course, as we've been talking about, the jumbo jet that he's being handed by Qatar, and how, as he's going to go through in this interview, he tries to word it as, no, I just got Qatar to donate something great to the U.S. government. That's not what this is. He gets the plane after he leaves office. That's a personal gift, which is weird. A very weird arrangement there. They're going to transfer ownership to Trump or his presidential library, but then reporting comes out that he intends on using it afterwards, and that huge plane just for himself to fly around. And so we know it is a personal gift to him, but he's trying to gaslight people into thinking that it's something different, like this.
You know, these planes, the plane that you're on right now is almost 40 years old. And when you land and you see Saudi Arabia and you see UAE and you see Qatar and you see all these, and they have these brand new Boeing 747s mostly, and you see ours next to it. This is like a totally different plane. It's much smaller, it's much less impressive as it is. And you know, we're the United States of America. I believe that we should have the most impressive plane. So anyway, so they said to me, we would like to, in effect, we would like to make a gift. You've done so many things, and we'd like to make a gift to the Defense Department, which is where it's going.
Look at those grapes behind him. They're very plump. Those look like some good, juicy grapes. I love good, juicy grapes. I don't know why you're laughing. I'm just being serious. I really love good, plump grapes in my mouth.
And I said, well, that's nice. Now, some people say, oh, you shouldn't accept gifts for the country. My attitude is, why wouldn't I accept a gift? We're giving to everybody else. Why wouldn't I accept a gift? Because it's going to be a couple of years, I think, before the Boeings are finished.
So it's just the same excuse over and over and over again. Let's listen to it a little more.
But I thought it was a beautiful gesture. Now, there are those that say we shouldn't be accepting gifts to the Defense Department. And I would say only a stupid person would say that. Why wouldn't we do that?
Because the gift is going to you. That's why it's going to you. That's the problem. And whenever, even gifted to the U.S. government, but especially when it's going to be transferred as a personal deal, the emoluments clause says you can't accept that without congressional approval, which you're not getting for the purpose of making sure that presidents can be bribed with expensive gifts, which is the fear here. And we know that Trump, just through compliments about how cool he is, can be won over by these authoritarians. Not to mention planes handed to him. Thank you to Paul for the super chat who said, quote, the story was well received means he made it up. Yeah. I think he does have an extremely overweight friend that he had some interaction with, but I think most of the story wasn't true, as are his stories. Like, you remember he told some story about a general who came up to him with a MAGA hat on, and then in a testimony, the general under oath was like, nah, that never happened. It was a cute story. It never happened, though. I liked it. I played along with it, but it never happened. Than this.
Well, actually, on Sunday, you announced a deal with China.
Yeah.
How did that happen that quickly?
Well, they met on Saturday and Sunday, and they had a deal pretty much from the beginning. It was the concept of a deal. I have concepts of a plan.
I don't understand how after the concepts of a plan debacle, he still lets that phrase, we have concepts of a deal, slip out of his mouth. Really? Really? Listen to Sean Hannity here, as I guess he was introducing his, or just covering this. He calls mainstream media the state-run media.
But despite a slew of recent accomplishments, groundbreaking diplomacy, the legacy state-run media mob still managed to find their new obsession, an offer from the government of Qatar for a Boeing 747 jumbo jet to serve as Air Force.
You've been reading off of a teleprompter for like 30 years. You started reading off a teleprompter on major news stations probably before I was born, and you still look like you're in pain while you're the Qatar jumbo jet. It's so weird. He's been doing this for so long, and he's still so bad at it. Anyways, I think he maybe during the Biden years got used to calling it the state-run media mob. So then it slipped out. The mainstream media is not, they don't like Trump, who's the state. You are the state-run media right now, or at least state-aligned media. So crazy stuff there. Let's move on to something else, though, because I'm sick of Trump's vibe, situation. Orange face. So Pete Buttigieg did a town hall. Now, many people are wondering, is Pete wanting to run for president? And I say with love in my heart to the people of Iowa, which is where he did this town hall, there are two reasons that people go to Iowa, or politicians, not people, politicians. They either live there or they're running for president. Those are the two reasons politicians go to Iowa. I love Iowa. It's like my favorite state, okay? Almost as good as Georgia, as we talked about in a different segment. Just the best people, right? Of all the places I've traveled, the best people. For reference, politicians say that about every state they go to. I don't want you to think I'm insulting Iowa. But I think Pete's running. I think he's going to run. Look at him going to Iowa for a town hall. Pete. Admit it, Pete. Wow, that would be crazy. So really good moments though, and as I've said before, I think other Democrats should look at him as an example of kind of how to message on these issues. He does a really great job.
Look, everybody's talking, including me, talking about the jumbo jet because I'm pissed off about the jumbo jet. But I believe the most important story today is that the numbers started coming back on the budget reconciliation put forward by the congressional Republicans, which last time I checked, literally as we speak, they're marking up in committee and voting on. And it is literally a zero-sum game because the more they do this, the less there is for that. So yes, I am against the enormous tax cuts for the rich that they are pushing through. But part of why we're against that is we're for taking those dollars and using them to make sure that nobody in this country, no child in this country goes without health insurance. To make sure that no child in this country goes hungry. We heard earlier about that USDA program that my friend and colleague Secretary Vilsack had to help make sure that more food goes directly from farms to people who need it. I'm for that. We could do that.
Yeah. Amanda S., thank you so much for becoming a member by clicking the join button below. Let me quickly, before getting back to the Pete Buttigieg town hall, talk about the cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. We have heard so many times from Republicans. It's been the craziest gaslighting I've seen in a long time from them. You think we're going to cut Medicaid, you freak? You loser? Well, you saw some budget that we wrote that said we were? You idiot? You moron? We're not going to cut Medicaid. You just have Trump's derangement syndrome. You idiot? You moron? Right? Over and over. And to the point where I was like, okay, maybe we won. Maybe we convinced them not to cut Medicaid. I didn't really say that, but I thought it like once. And and then they're right now in committee marking up the proposal that includes these cuts. Now, for a few things to look at. First, Data for Progress notes that there's not a single congressional district, not state, not the general poll, not even a single congressional district in the U.S. where more than 15% of voters support cuts to Medicaid. And you can see the breakdown there. Just nobody, rarely in politics is there as much unity around something as right now there is around don't cut Medicaid. But they're doing it. Now, how are they going to do it? Well, it'll be, no, we're just adding restrictions. We're making it safer. We're kicking off people who shouldn't be eligible. But we've seen this game before, and it always goes the way that we expect it to. ABC reports the Congressional Budget Office wrote in a letter to Energy and Commerce Chairman Brett Guthrie that the proposal met its lofty target for $880 billion of savings over the next decade. The Energy and Commerce Committee resisted pressure from hardliners like Roy, who demanded GOP leaders propose lowering the percentage the federal government pays to states' Medicaid programs or include per capita caps on federal Medicaid payments to states. The health portions would save about $715 billion, according to CBO. However, at least 8.6 million more Americans will go uninsured. And if you look at other changes and analyses that we're about to get to, it's even worse than that. And let's just jump to it right now, actually. Jamie Dupree said if you missed it late last night, House Republicans unveiled their Medicaid plans as part of the GOP reconciliation bill. The CBO says the cuts will mean 13.7 million people will be knocked off the health insurance rolls by 2034. The Congressional Budget Office tells Democrats the GOP changes to Medicaid and Obama health law will knock 13.7 million people off the health insurance rolls. And so, again, there's a few points on this. Number one, when arguing with them, they're just going to kick people off and they're just going to gut funding. Okay, so that is happening. But their justification, I do want to be fair to what they would say they're arguing, is this is just to get people who aren't eligible or shouldn't be eligible because they're adding more layers to being eligible. To which I say, well, I think they should be. And number one, that's because I do think everyone should have some minimum standard of health insurance in the United States with the wealth that we have, but don't properly invest. We should have everyone covered. But even setting that aside, people's life situations are complicated, and you shouldn't lose coverage because you either couldn't properly prove or didn't check in enough times to demonstrate that you're looking for a job, because that's what they're adding, is that able-bodied folks should have more layers of checks to make sure that they're out trying to get a job or they have a job. If someone right now is just caring for a loved one, just needs to be around more and doesn't have the time to pursue work, I still think if they get ill, they should have coverage. Yeah, crazy thought. I don't think those restrictions should be implemented. And that brings us to the last point. Even by their argument, this is a wildly inefficient proposal, because the two chunks are, we're going to add work requirements on the federal level to Medicaid, and we're going to increase the checks. We're going to increase how many times people have to demonstrate and check their eligibility, more frequent eligibility checks. And what you see is that the money necessary to have the staffing necessary to do that often costs more than just not doing it. And it constantly kicks off people who are eligible, but there was some paperwork problem. Either they didn't understand how to properly prove their eligibility, they missed some date where they were supposed to. The bureaucratic, as they always talk about, inefficiencies get in the way, and people miss out on coverage that they are eligible for, but was cut off for some reason. Similar to how we've talked about with Social Security. And they don't ever want to invest properly in the staffing that would be necessary to enforce these barriers. So waste money, waste effort, and kick off a bunch of people who are eligible, all for sort of a virtue signal that we're really going to stop those lazy people from getting their health insurance. Which, guess what? Even if you are able-bodied and lazy, if you get really sick, I think that you should have coverage. It's crazy. I'm a socialist, I guess. I'm a communist. I think that we should have what every other industrialized country has. And so all of that is true, and all those arguments are strong. It's the same thing with SNAP. There's an example with Medicaid that I was reminded of. I think it was Arkansas in 2018 when, on a statewide basis, they added work requirements to Medicaid. And millions of people were kicked off who were eligible wrongly because these reporting systems just mess up. And they're not cost efficient. It's more cost efficient to just give people the coverage who need it. But all of that aside, don't forget what's the context. And it's what Pete Buttigieg mentioned, which is that they're doing this all to try to, even though they're not going to get all the way to paying for the tax cuts, they're still going to add a lot to the debt, but they're trying to balance a little bit how much they're losing in government revenue because of tax cuts that disproportionately will go to the top. If that does not lead to a Republican trouncing in the midterms, I don't know what would. Here's more from Pete.
This is a country where the government, the head of the government, or very wealthy men who advise and or instruct the head of our government with no accountability. That means that if you're a farmer caught up in a useless trade war, the answer is too bad. If you're a small business owner who doesn't even know what you can order or what you're going to be charging, the answer is we don't really have to answer to you. If you're one of the 10 million Americans who we just learned stand to be kicked off of Medicaid if this Republican budget goes through Congress, the answer is go pound sand. That is unacceptable in a democracy.
Yeah, 100%. A few comments to read, then we'll get back to this town hall. Motor Fister. Motor Fister said said slightly unhinged and brutal Luke is my favorite. Oh, thank you. I like that. LCM has been a member for a month and said ADHD moment, just wondering what pattern is on Luke's shirt. Could you zoom out, Jaden? Show the good people my body. Let's give them what they want as I read more comments. Cher said, do you have any events upcoming in Florida? Big supporter of your channel. Okay, here. There's the pattern. It's some flowers and the word beautiful. It's at you. It's not me. I'm not describing myself. I'm labeled beautiful. No. It's you're beautiful, right? That's I think. That's how I interpret it. What's your name? Beautiful. But yeah, Cher said any events in Florida. So we're just doing, here's the deal, all right? Good question. And then we'll get back to this town hall. That's my seats going crazy. We've never done a live show before. And so we are trying it where we are, which is Austin, Texas, July 5th. That's going to be our test run. I'd love to go on tour and see all of you across the entire country. That would be great. Logistically, that might not be possible. So we need to see, does a solid number of people show up in Austin? Does it seem like, okay, if we went to other big cities, there would kind of be the right number of people for the type of venues that we would go to? So, unless you're not going to travel to Austin for it from Florida, then just hope that the people around Austin do, go. And I think it kind of was worthwhile. And then we'll try to schedule more ones. Definitely in Florida, New York, kind of the big hubs we would start with. But Austin, July 5th, lukebeasleyshow.com/live is where you can get the tickets to our one and only live show as of now. Like I said, if it goes well, good turnout, then we will schedule more. Because right now, I'm just speaking at two very bright lights and a camera and sitting in the room with these two guys too much. And so I would love to put faces to names and just faces to numbers and really meet a bunch of you and speak about the issues. And do a little something like this, It would be cooler, though. The production value would be cooler. I'd hope. But let's keep listening.
These times are painful, they are complicated, but so is every period of history that has ever inspired us. Every person we have ever been inspired by. They didn't do the things that made them inspiring on a perfectly calm, clear day. They did it in the face of headwinds. They did it in the face of pain. They did it in incredibly unstable and difficult moments, and so we're living in one of those, and that's not a fun thing. But in a strange way, it's a kind of a privilege, because there will be no question that we, American citizens, in this moment, we're living in a time of enormous importance, that we would do our part to make sure that that flag and everything that is done in its name lives up to its promise.
This is something I've thought about a lot and mentioned on the show sometimes, which is it's hard to speak about the positives or the bright side or the honor of existing in this moment when there's so much pain and going to be so much pain. We just talked about the cuts to life-saving health insurance. And so that's all so real present and number one. But number two, as political activists, as politically conscious people, there is quite the responsibility that I think will yield a level of triumph and excitement if we can manifest that will be an honor to be a part of, that we participated in such a historic juncture. We participated in this shift out of an anti-democratic authoritarian era and back into what America should be, and that we collectively will be remembered as the population of people who did that. Thank you so much to Dave Gallagher for becoming a member. You will be remembered in history for being a member of this show, okay? It really is that simple, ladies and gentlemen. By clicking the join button on YouTube if you're watching live. Thank you to LCM for the super chat and saying funny howls. Nobody wants getting I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Funny how's nobody only's getting no tased at Pete's town hall. Oh, I see. Yeah, no one's getting tasered. That's a good point. At Marjorie's, it was it was crazy, right? People being dragged out. That is weird. Why at these Democratic town halls, I saw AOC got heckled a little bit, but there's just not the level of rage from the other side to show up and scream. Because all the Democrats, they're being paid by Soros. Maybe. I don't think so, though. I think it's indicative of Republicans right now, even if they still agree with Trump, it's not like they absolutely hate what Pete Buttigieg is saying when he's saying, I think that your health insurance should be covered. You traitor! I want you to have health insurance. Traitor! All right, let's keep listening.
I guess the way I would think about it is that our most important rights and freedoms are safe if and only if they apply across the board. So just like freedom of speech isn't freedom of speech if it's only for speech we agree with, right? It's why, because Voltaire said, I detest what you have to say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it, right? It is precisely with disagreeable speech that we prove that we really mean it when we say freedom of speech. Same thing with the rule of law. You know, they're saying like, oh, well, this guy, you know, he's a criminal. The whole point is that no one person, least of all, no one politician, gets to decide that you're a criminal. Who decides? We have a process. We have laws. That's what due process is. You're not a criminal because the head of the government of the country you live in says you're a criminal. Then, if that is the way it works, we are not a nation of laws. The whole Constitution points to a way of making sure that we...
You know, you're listening and you're thinking, yeah, that's so true. But then you remember, wait, that's like the whole thing. That's the whole Constitution idea. That's what was supposed to be what we unite around as Americans. And do you remember when I kept saying during the campaign that the reason why I see MAGA and Trump as such a unique threat, which deserves such unique focus, is because what they did during the election season by itself showed me, oh my gosh, they don't agree on this basic principle that I think is just foundational to every single thing else that we talk about. And so this is not disagreeing over normal political stuff. This is saying the very foundation that the rest of the political debates are built on and even possible because of is being attacked. And that's a scary realization. And it comes with it that most likely that probably means they don't agree on a lot of other foundational principles. And that's what we're learning. I didn't know for sure it would be due process, but that's what came of it. When they show you who they are with trying to overturn a free and fair election, of course that's going to trickle over to them also not. That's why people said there was a threat to democracy. Was because that it's not that we knew exactly what Trump would do, but we knew he would do something destructive if he was so willing to do what he did with the 2020 election and how he handled January 6th and the attempts to steal the election for himself, that now we're learning this is one of the things that he also doesn't have respect for in our system, being due process. It's such a basic concept, so it's crazy to hear a politician have to explain it like we're in school. Oh goodness, Motorfister said, yeah, that's right, say my name, you big beautiful truth speaker. LCM said, not sure what happened with that last comment, all good. Chelsea became a member, thank you so much, I appreciate that greatly, welcome to the community. And then Miss Chivos Dragon said, I just bought my ticket to the live show in Austin. Yes, awesome. I will see you then, or see you there then, unless I don't know, get hit by a bus. That's grim. I'm not planning on getting hit by a bus, okay? I'll be there. This is the point. I'll be there. Here's more.
Two things. One, that these cuts are wrong, and two, that these cuts are unpopular. Unfortunately, they might actually care more about the fact that they're unpopular than the fact that they're wrong. Since they're both, this is an opportunity to get their attention. We're all here for this town hall. I can't help but notice that I'm not even elected official or running for anything. I'm here.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Notice that I'm not even elected official or running for anything. I'm here. I can't help but notice a lot of people who are elected officials aren't. There's a reason for that, right? They don't want to have to explain this stuff. Two things.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh, when I'm speaking, I gotta get that bounce going. That was good. All right, there's more, but let's stop on that subject for now, because there just really is too much to talk about. Brian Krassenstein posted breaking. Woman says security guard kicked her out of woman's restroom, asked her to prove her gender in Massachusetts hotel. Maybe we should stop worrying so much about the person minding their business in a public bathroom. And she is a woman, as this news report will put it, who was born a woman, who has always been a woman, who is biologically born female, right? All the little stipulations, and still got brutally harassed.
The security guards was there telling me to get out of the bathroom, that I was a man in the women's bathroom. I said, I'm a woman.
Ansley was born a woman, is a woman, and identifies as one, but says as she was escorted out of the restroom, comments were hurled.
For some reason, this reminded me of the local news report that was like, John is challenging the other Republican in the race. John is gay. It's like, she is a woman, was a woman, is gonna be a woman, wants to be a woman, has the woman stuff.
I'm a woman.
Ansley was born a woman, is a woman, and identifies as one, but says as she was escorted out of the restroom, comments were hurled at her from other women waiting in line.
Someone said, like, get him out of here, like, referring to me. So, like, he's a creep, also referring to me.
From there, the couple says the security guard asked for their IDs to check their gender. After presenting them, they say things grew heated before ultimately being told to leave.
What? They presented the idea and that wasn't enough. All right, all right. Come around. Come around, everybody. MAGA, I see you. Come here. All right, sit down. Hey, about other people's crotches. Don't worry about it. Hey, about other people's crotches. Don't give it a thought. Hey, about other people's no square. Mind your own business. Okay? Does that work? Is that simple enough? If you find yourself worrying about someone else's no square, remember why it's called a no square. No. Don't worry about it. None of your business. All right, come around. I could see people stopping focusing. Come here. If you're focusing on someone else, I'm sorry for the words, for someone else's penis or vagina, let's just be adults, okay? Someone else's penis or vagina. You need a life. You need friends. If you have a penis, maybe you need a vagina, like on somebody else. Does that make sense? Meaning you might need a loved one, or maybe you need another penis. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in your life. Okay, I don't know who you love, but love who you love. Maybe you need a hobby. You could journal. You could go to the movies. You could volunteer at a food bank. You could watch sports. You could do that thing where you don't really watch the sport, but you're on your phone, but the sport's on, so at least you can say that you watched the sports game. to your friends Jaden and Cole. But you need a life. You need a life because you're focusing on literally someone else's under the riches zone, okay? That's not your business. Don't worry about it. Now, if someone comes up to you and starts harassing you, touching you, now you got a problem and it's your business, okay? And do what you got to do. And if we were to find out that it was a man who went in there and said, I get to come in here because of the trans thing. This happens constantly, okay? I am walking in the women's restroom, but the guards who aren't at women's restrooms can't stop me because of trans. Because AOC said trans people should go to the bathrooms that they're aligned with. And now I'm going to do assault. Now we got a problem. But do you know what the problem was that was there all along? The person wanting to do assault. Had nothing to do with the trans thing anyways. And then if it's a trans person doing assault, it's the fact that they wanted to do assault. Statistically, you don't see increased harassment when you allow trans women into women's restrooms. But you do see increased harassment whenever you send trans women into men's restrooms. And statistically, when you send, put this back up, Jaden, women into women's restrooms and they get harassed, there's increased harassment. When you send non-trans women, apparently there's still increased harassment because people are freaks. They are. The fact that you would see this beautiful woman walk into a restroom and say, they're not hurting anyone. I don't know what's their history. I don't know who they are. But now, and it's a women's restroom, so it's all stalls. So you just go into your own stall, right? Lucky. You women have it so good. Oh, you give birth. Well, we have to go into bathrooms with urinals. Okay. We have to walk in and go, oh no, there's one guy here, 2 empty stalls, one guy here. Which stall do I, or not stalls, 2 empty urinals, which urinal do I go into? Because this guy is going to think that I'm needing to be next to him, and this guy, so then you just leave and pee in your pants. Okay, that's what you do. That's what any rational person does. Or you wait to go to the stall and you sit down like an adult. Anyways, that's a different issue. Speaking of weird stuff happening from the right wing, here is, what's her name? Sage Steele. Sage Steele. That's a cool name. And Charlie Kirk talking about the litter boxes thing. Yes, this is not 2019. It's happening still, according to them.
I also talked to my younger daughter when she was a sophomore, and she came home talking about the litter box sitting outside of the math class because there were, it was a girl who identified as a girl on Wednesday, a boy on Thursday, and a cat on Friday. So we're fine with that.
This is very real. Hundreds of schools have this, by the way.
Why is it that every time they say this is very real, it means it's not? I don't understand why they do that. Just okay, you're assuming, by you saying it, we're supposed to assume it's real because you're a truth teller, right? But Tucker and Charlie Kirk and all these right-wingers will go, Luke Beasley has personally burnt down 300 public male restrooms. And with dynamite, destroyed 78 urinals. Which is true, by the way. This is real. They always add the caveat. I thought it was real too. Not that story. A different story.
So we're fine with that.
This is very real. Hundreds of schools have this, by the way. If you don't know about this, you guys are not informed. I'm just going to be honest.
It's real. It's not a joke.
They identify as cats, so they have to have litter boxes throughout all these schools.
They're furries.
In Arizona, they have them too. They're furries.
Furries.
In Scottsdale Unified School District, they have this.
All right, so every time this claim is claimed, it's looked into and it's debunked. But they say it with such confidence that I go, could it be? There's just no way. Could it? Now, at this late date, after it's been debunked about 600 times, I don't put it past Charlie, Charles, I can't think of another one. Charles, Chuck, Chuck Kirk. I don't put it past him to go put the litter box at the school so that then he can say a litter box was at the school. I'm going to say this, okay? Clip this. Anyone who wants it. Take it. Use it for your own purposes. I don't put it past Charlie, Chuck, Charles, Kirk to go put a litter box at a school, go to the restroom in it, which would be like a crime. I think you'd be on a sex offender list. Gross. And then take a photo of it to say that liberals are doing that because for some reason, automatically it's liberals who would be the ones going in the litter box. I don't put it past him. Okay. But every time it's looked into, it's not real. Every time. So why do they keep saying it? You remember Rogan? It was like, my friend's daughter saw that there was a litter box. And really, he just got it from a meme. And then the same thing. I heard from my daughter that there are litter boxes in the dorm room. Oh, wait, it was for somebody's cat. Never mind. But a couple comments, but I'm not done with this rant, by the way. Cap Chaos said, just figured out how to change my username. Fairly new to YouTube. Formerly LCM. All right. Thank you, Captain Chaos. I appreciate it. David L said, Sage Steele is a crazy MAGA now. That's insane. I didn't know her before, but I'm heartbroken. Rachel Grant? Did I say that name wrong? Rochelle Grant? Rochelle. Sorry. Grant. That was embarrassing. Thank you so much for becoming a member. It's live. Let's do it live. What the heck? I appreciate you becoming a member by clicking the join button below. Okay, so again, if this is true and kids, so I guess the school districts or the teachers are putting litter box. It's not happening. Oh, I can't even get it out. It's not happening. But let's really get there. Then that is insane. Okay? Oh, yay, I found bipartisanship. Hey, if you're letting kids go number 1 or number 2 in a litter box because they say they're a cat, then stop it. Does that work for you, Charlie? And it's not happening because they keep saying this and it keeps getting debunked. Which is why they have to go, this is real, by the way. No, like this one, I know most of what I'm saying is totally not true. This one's real, though. This statement's true. Not okay, other ones disregard. That was real. Now, this whole furry thing. Thank you for the super chat from Uncle Fatty, who said, vote for Mike Pence for genitalia inspector at the gates of hell for all eternity, Matt Walsh for vice GI, Chuck Kirk for secretary of litter boxes. Wow. That was a powerful statement. No comment. But I think if you like dressing up like an animal, especially if you're a kid, kids do that. They've always done that. I'm a tiger, rare. All right, cool. But if anyone thinks they're actually an animal, which I doubt is true, but this is the argument they're making. The left, they've gone so woke that now they went from going, this is how it worked. Ready? Someone out there, some Luke out there was like, I want to be gay. And we were like, fine, we accept that. And then the next person said, I want to be trans. And we were like, fine, I'll accept that. And now they're like, I want to be a tiger. And the left thinks we should accept that. It's like, I think this is just a big op. Okay, I think it's a big psyop because introduced me to someone who actually thinks they're an animal, and stop lumping that in with genuine identities. That's the word I'm looking for. Genuine identities. Now, if you just think it kind of is freaky, which I know is part of it for some people who are older, you kind of get freaky when you're in a tiger outfit. Okay. Have fun. Rawr. People wear different, I'm not going to start listing off the things, but people wear costumes. Fun. What am I going to stop them? No. And so if that's what this is about for above 18 people, but if people are, or if you just like, you watched that video of someone like rolling around and being walked on the street like a dog. I don't know. Okay. I have no, what's your take? I don't know. What? Okay. But if anyone's out there believing that they're actually an animal, like they're actually an animal, then there's people that should help them, I presume. Probably, right? You get help for stuff like that. From the beginning of time, people have believed things, delusional things about themselves. But no, I don't know if any kids are doing litter boxes because they actually think they're an animal. I think this is a big way to discredit people's genuine identities by equating it with things that don't really manifest themselves societally. This is really interesting. Advanced Apathy said, whenever you hear these ghouls bemoaning and devaluing American liberal arts educations, please understand that as your children, they don't want going to college, not their own. And it's citing this person called Scott Walker, who said college is un-American, literally. But then Scott Walker just posted, our daughter-in-law received her master's degree at the University of Madison, thanks to her employer for helping her further her education.
How the turntables.
Exactly. It's so annoying. I hear this so often too. Like relatives are, college is just a big scheme to turn the people liberal. That's probably why you're liberal, because you went to college, isn't it? You're just you were just brainwashed. I blindly listen to everything Fox News says, but you were brainwashed at college. Oh, my daughter went to college? Yay! That's like I know people who have done that. And the same people who go, this is just a way to turn people liberal. The second they have someone who got some degree somewhere, and oh my gosh, Sarah's boyfriend is so impressive. He went to Harvard, right? Isn't that incredible? I'm like, didn't you just say Harvard was the worst university ever and was turning everyone liberal and people shouldn't go to college? By the way, if you can, go to college. There's this, like, it's sexy now to just be like, nah, don't, meh. If you can, do it. It's a great, growth and educational space. Now, the show took off when I was in college. So kind of interfered, but I'll get back to it. Don't worry about it. Courtney said, Luke and Jaden, what would your fursona be? Oh, I would be. What if my fursona was you and your fursona was me? We were like each other's spirit. No, that sounds bizarre. I would be a dolphin. That's my favorite animal.
That's a good one. I would say squirrel, raccoon, hammerhead shark.
Okay. Brenda became a member. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Brenda Vincent and Courtney became a member. Thank you so much as well. I appreciate all of you. We're having fun this morning. You know how it is. We have fun. Oh, one thing I want to talk about was Steven Rattner posted headline inflation dropped to 2.3% in April, down from 2.4% the previous month. This is what I'm talking about. Then Macca responded, oh, we told you. Like maybe, no, it's not there, but the right-wing influencers, Trump, golden age of America, art of the deal, the left said that prices were going to go up, but really inflation's coming down. You just acknowledged 3 seconds ago that this is mostly Biden's economy. That was your argument. But that Trump just took tariff steps that will have an impact or something. So, first of all, from the hypocritical angle, stop it. If you believe that this is Biden's economy, then everything has to be his. It doesn't make sense when you cite the reason for the contraction in Q1 being imports, inventory, and government spending, because that's all Trump stuff. But you are not being consistent. Number two, we keep telling you, yes, the the more systemic parts of the economy, like inflation year over year, which takes a while to have an effect, are good and we're going in the right direction. And you're going to mess it up. And so when we get anecdotal examples, wow, that was a phrase, anecdotal examples now of prices having to be increased because of tariffs, you were kind of right, except for not, but kind of, when you said the underlying economy that was, you didn't admit this, but strong was inherited. And this is not me just, every good metric has to be every bad metric. This is where we said inflation was. It was cooling. That was the situation. And so it's such a damn shame that that's going to change if Trump keeps charging forward. Because yes, companies haven't been able to make much decisions yet on prices of things because they don't know what it's going to be tomorrow. But we will see that change if he continues forward. And you got to stop flip-flopping between it's Biden, it's Trump, it's Biden, it's Trump, it's Biden, it's Trump. Be consistent for once in your godforsaken life. Let me see if there are any other final comments to read, and then we will wrap this sucker up. Anything else? One more? All right, I'll get one more, and then we will go for the morning. As a reminder, we are doing a live show July 5th. Lately, we're doing our normal morning show, 10:30 Eastern time, if you want to watch it live on YouTube, but then also gets published as a podcast and stays on the channel so you can watch it there, the podcast tab, or on any podcast listening platform. And then the bonus show and the nightly show. You can catch the full versions of those if you're a member by clicking the join button below, like Miranda Tess did. And we'll end it there. Thank you all so much. I'll talk to you next time.